Public Relations. Edward L. Bernays. 1945. Narrated by Skeptical Waves. Part 2. Public Relations in Action. 27. Public Relations for Higher Education. The continued success of our democratic society depends, among other things, not only on our elementary and high schools, but also on our colleges and universities. College and university presidents in the eastern part of the country revealed, in a survey I made, that they are aware of the importance of public relations in this field. This chapter gives the findings of that survey, based upon an analysis of letters received, as presented to a conference of District 2, American College Public Relations Association, and suggests ways in which institutions of higher learning might advance their public relations in the national interest and in their own interest. The submerged problems of higher education are gradually becoming visible to the public. In an America that is rapidly changing socially, politically, and economically, the future of higher education depends more and more on public understanding of its problems. One of the peculiarities of our civilization is that laymen frequently direct the work of experts. In educational public relations, the college and university presidents, the faculty, and the alumni are the laymen, the public relations directors are the experts. This situation has its disadvantages. It is, therefore, extremely important that laymen and experts understand each other and work together toward common goals. To do so, it must first be discovered what those at administrative levels think public relations is and what it should do. Then whether their definitions and appraisals agree with those of the public relations experts can be determined. Now, as was pointed out earlier in this volume, the phrase public relations has been used very loosely since its first application more than 25 years ago. It is now a sort of portmanteau expression. Like such words as progressive and liberal, it takes on coloration from external situations. However, public relations involves every action or attitude of an institution toward the publics on which it depends. An institution's good public relations, therefore, are based on actions that reflect the broadest public interest. Top levels of administration necessarily direct and supervise public relations because that is where the policies that determine those activities are decided. Because of his special skills, aptitudes, and experience, a director of public relations is needed at administrative levels to help carry out the technical phases of the public relations program in business and nonprofit groups alike. He is needed to interpret the entire institution to all its publics on and off the campus. Now let us appraise the extent to which our definition of public relations procedure is understood and followed by institutions of higher learning. Presidents of many institutions in the East were asked, by letter, what they thought the scope and function of their public relations activities were, what they conceived their objectives to be, and other related questions. Although the letters arrived during the holiday season, we received in response a total of more than 50,000 words from college presidents or their associates. Our analysis was based on 40 of these letters, many of them from the most important institutions of the eastern United States. Almost all the executives acknowledged the importance and value of public relations. As President Carter Davidson of Union College wrote, if a chief administrative officer fails in a college, it is largely due to the failure of his college public relations program. In the Alumni Public Relations Committee report sent to us by President Harold W. Dodds of Princeton University, this point of view was reinforced. Public relations is concerned with, first, what an institution is, and second, what people think it is. It begins, therefore, with the top management of any enterprise. However, there was a wide variation in the definitions of public relations we received and, therefore, in what the writer conceived to be its use. The replies can be grouped into 4 clearly defined approaches. First, a very small group, but an important one, agreed with our general definition that public relations embraces the entire relationship of higher education to the public. A second group, somewhat larger, saw public relations as a means of asserting intellectual leadership in the community. A third group, still larger, thought of public relations in terms of special activities that interpret the institution to the public in order to enhance its prestige and reputation. A fourth, the largest group of all, regarded public relations as a tool of persuasion and suggestion to accomplish certain specific objectives such as fundraising, securing better students or faculty, and other immediate aims. The late President Edmund Ezra Day of Cornell summed up the general point of view of those who think of public relations as covering the whole impact of the institution on the public. The very existence of a college or a university involves public relations. Furthermore, the success of the college and whatever it hopes to do is determined, to a very great extent, by its public relations. Dr. Frank D. Fackenthal, then acting president of Columbia University, echoed his statement, "The scope of college public relations is as broad as the activities of the college or university itself." Another administrator, Chancellor William P. Tully of Syracuse University, put it in a slightly different way: public relations is the total impact the college makes on the specialized publics it seeks to serve. It is not an information bureau. And Vice Chancellor Harold O. Voorhis of New York University said, the scope of college public relations activities should be as broad as the outermost reaches of the institution. President Thomas Brown Rudd of Hamilton College, in his answer, placed responsibility where it belongs. We must be constantly dealing effectively with the real current problems of our time. I assume that public opinions are developed primarily from significant and noteworthy actions. Since significant and noteworthy actions are necessarily taken by all with the approval of the president, the faculty, trustees, and some alumni groups, public relations is unavoidably the function of the president and these groups. The second group of college presidents saw in public relations the means to assert intellectual leadership in the community. One university official, Dr. George W. McClelland, then president of the University of Pennsylvania, said, the function of public relations activities is to improve the opportunities of the university to serve the public by advancing higher education. The preservation of American democracy is inextricably woven into the strengthening of our endowed institutions. Another, President Richard L. Green of Wells College, said that an important function of public relations is to keep the publics of the college informed of its continuing importance in modern society. In the same vein, Dr. Bryn J. Hovde, then president of the New School for Social Research, stated that it must maintain in the public mind the high regard for education as a process without which democracy can hardly be expected to operate successfully. The third group of my respondents regarded public relations as a special activity of the college for interpreting it to the public. This view was succinctly worded by Dean Margaret T. Corwin of the New Jersey College for Women as follows: public relations activities of a college or university should be the institution's interpreting agent to the public. Another college president, Dr. Harold Taylor of Sarah Lawrence, put it in a slightly different way: the scope and function of college public relations is to deal accurately and honestly with the educational program which each college is carrying on and to make available to parents, students, and the general public a simple account of what the institution is doing to fulfill its responsibilities. I think that if the institution is not clear about what its responsibilities are, or is not doing anything about them, there is no point in doing any public relating. President Herbert L. Spencer of Bucknell University commented in practically the same way, saying, the public relations activities of any college should aim to interpret the college's policy and accomplishments to its various publics, in order to secure for the college maximum goodwill and understanding. Similarly, Dr. Harry N. Wright, president of the City College of New York, wrote that public relations is the effort to interpret to the public accurately and constructively the activities and program of the institution. This concept was echoed by President John W. Nason, of Swarthmore College, who found it increasingly important to interpret the nature and purpose of the college to its alumni and friends. The acting president of Clarkson College of Technology, Dr. J. H. Davis, expressed it in these terms: the scope and function of college public relations activities is to improve the prestige of the college and enhance its reputation. The fourth group viewed public relations as a tool to achieve specific goals. Professor Ralph G. Unger of the New York State College of Forestry gave it as his opinion that public relations is public information and education with the objective of keeping the people informed. Brother B. Thomas, president of Manhattan College, had this to say about public relations: the purpose of college public relations activities may legitimately be improving its own facilities, to be of greater service to the present and future student body. From Dr. Herbert D. Welt, president of the Teachers College of Connecticut, came this observation: the objectives of a college public relations program in a state-supported institution may briefly be stated as follows: A. To acquaint the public with the activities and needs of the college. B. To interest students, faculty, and alumni in the program and offerings of the college. And C. To interest prospective students in enrolling in the college. Many specific public relations goals were set up by this last group: raising funds, attracting better students, drawing up better faculty, preserving college independence, acquainting industries and professions with the abilities of the college's graduates, interesting students, faculty, and alumni in college programs, offering wide-scale intelligence and aptitude programs, and selling the idea of freedom in research and discussion. This group suggested the use of various media to carry their messages, among them catalogs, bulletins, direct mail, radio, and the like. In this connection, mention was made of the many publics to be reached. For instance, the publics of one university were noted by Father Robert I. Gannon, then president of Fordham University, as follows: 1. Faculty and staff. 2. Returned veterans. 3. Other students. 4. Parents of students. 5. Alumni and alumni. 6. Telephone callers. 7. Campus visitors. 8. Donors and prospective donors. 9. Secondary school officials. 10. Prospective students. 11. Other universities, educational associations, and cultural clubs. 12. Prospective employers. 13. Press and radio. 14. Professional groups. 15. Government local, state, and national. 16. Other nations. It is interesting to note that very little was said about the public relations man. Among those who did mention him, one president, Dr. Allen Valentine of the University of Rochester, said, "College publicity is a highly specialized job, demanding talents, understandings, sympathies, and personalities of a nature often quite different from those which would make a man a success in public relations for some large industrial concern." That concept was rather generally expressed, along with the feeling that the public relations director must have direct access to, and work closely with, the president of the college. Another idea, which recurred throughout many letters, was that the entire college family, faculty, students, employees, and others should all be utilized as an ex officio public relations staff. This summation gives a fair digest of what our survey revealed. What conclusions can we draw from this study? Certainly one basic fact brought out by the study was the lack of understanding of just what public relations is and can do for higher education. This fact should be a matter of direct concern to our institutions of higher learning. Because of it, neither public relations nor public relations men themselves were employed effectively. In general, college public relations was used as a tool of persuasion on a limited approach basis, rather than as an overall activity correlating all the aims of an institution with all of its publics. Actually, public relations, as we noted before, covers all 4 of the functions cited by our respondents. If we accept this concept, public relations was being used on too narrow a basis, very often only to perpetuate the individual interests of an existing institution rather than to work for the broader purpose of advancing the interests of higher education. Since higher education depends fundamentally on public approval, it must have been losing in its competitive struggle for survival if it failed to utilize the full powers of public relations. On the basis of this survey, I made the following recommendations. Administrators of colleges and universities should get together in a conference to agree on a definition of public relations in its broadest terms. They should plot out general areas of agreement on the goals of higher education, and then develop means of joint action. Educational objectives have been defined in the Harvard University Report 1 and also by the President's Commission on Higher Education. What is needed at the present time is a concerted effort by universities to reach these goals, both intramural and extramural. Individually, universities should define clear-cut goals for themselves and put them in writing. Obviously, however, these goals must be adaptable to changing conditions. The public relations man and all the publics of the university, the faculty, the alumni, the town can use them as a guide for attitudes and actions. University associations and individual institutions should undertake research to scientifically appraise public understanding of their goals. Further, universities and colleges may have to revise some of their attitudes and actions so as to reach their desired goals. Certainly the report of the President's Commission on Higher Education indicates a cultural time lag between the needs of the public and what higher education has provided in certain areas. That report, prepared by disinterested lay and educational experts, called for a carefully developed program to bring higher education fully into the democratic tradition by eliminating economic, geographical, racial, and religious barriers. It called for the improvement of education qualitatively and its expansion quantitatively on both graduate and undergraduate levels if it is to merit the public's support. As a technician dealing in the trends of public thought and action, I believe the President's Commission correctly interpreted the present and future demands of the American public. It is my belief that a good deal of thought should be given to analyzing the public relations goals of our colleges and universities. Objectives should be so graphically defined that all activities would lead directly toward those ends. The goal may be thought of loosely as prestige. But it must be kept in mind what this prestige will accomplish for the purposes of higher education. And what are the purposes of higher education? To give service, to acquire a reputation, to interpret, to conduct research? Service to whom? Reputation for what? Interpretation to what end? What kind of research? Are education's goals the search for truth, for intellectual enlightenment in definite areas, or a combination of these elements? Once institutions of higher learning have, as a group and as individual units, determine their goals, it seems to me that every other action involving public relationships will flow naturally and logically therefrom. The public relations strategy of higher education, its themes, its organization, its planning, timing, and tactics will be more realistic, and it will be able to achieve those goals much more effectively. An approach of this kind to the problem of integrating the university's relations with its various publics considers both the general and the specific situation in which higher education finds itself. It should enable educational institutions not only to carry on successfully, but to forge ahead boldly and assert the intelligent leadership that is so necessary to our democracy today and in the future.